What is good, Josh? I'm the Spool Game Man, back with another Anime Tuesday. And last week, we talked about Naruto characters that should have died or should have been brought back during the fourth Great Shinobi World War. Today, we're talking about the Naruto Shinobi that should have died during the fourth Great Shinobi World War, which I think is a pretty appropriate topic to talk about right next. You know, we talked about people that we wish we were brought back. Now, people that probably made more sense, that plot probably saved to go ahead and should have been got up out there. Now, of course, there's a lot of people that, you know, come to mind. Now, obviously, there's a lot of background characters, but notable characters that probably shouldn't have made it out of their fights. I mean, the 5 Great Kage probably should have been up out of there. Trying to think about anybody else that, I mean, Naruto got luckily saved there at the end by heart palpitations. Guy should have probably died. Yeah, honestly, because I think that happened first. So if Naruto, or if the 5 Kage had died, Naruto would have died. So that was probably why they got kept alive. But I'm trying to think about anybody else that really made sense that should have died. I mean, they probably should have got Kabuto actually fully up out of there instead of just looping him in an instant getting jutsu the whole time. How Sakura stayed alive, and basically almost all of them stayed alive was because of Naruto's chakra, but a lot of them probably should have got up out of there. But I'm interested to see what kind of people show up on this list for sure. So let's just go ahead and jump straight into it. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you guys are enjoying the anime content and want more of it. Right now, what I'm currently doing right now is watching Fire Force and My Hero Academia, the final season. So almost caught up with that. I'm about actually like 5 more episodes away from being done. So I'll probably be able to finish season 2 of Fire Force today and go and start on the first half of season 3, and then obviously wait for the second half to drop. I think it said January 2026. So that's why I'm trying to catch up on it before that last season comes out. Let me know what you guys are currently watching in the anime world. Let's go ahead and jump into this heat.
Listen, if we're being entirely honest with ourselves here, a lot of the people that should have died in the fourth Great Shinobi World War simply didn't. Now, that's either because when they were on the verge of death, they were saved because they didn't play a big enough part in the fourth Great Shinobi World War to be put in a situation where they possibly could be killed, or because Kishimoto realized that killing them would cut off their potential character development arcs in a way that wouldn't be satisfying to a lot of fans. However, with all of that said, there are still a fair amount of people that should have died in the fourth Great Shinobi World War that simply didn't. Now, I get it can't be a happy ending if a bunch of people die, but it was a war that involved all 5 ninja nations battling against the greatest threat that ninja kind has ever seen, Madara. And yet the only real notable death that happens during the fourth Great Shinobi World War.
I think that's the crazy part too. During the Warring States periods, he had to settle an agreement with Hashirama, right? And that just shows how powerful Hashirama was. It took the entire 5 nations together to battle this one person. It's not like he was regenerating with his life and everything like that. He was not dying. He was not getting any sustainable injuries. Like, one man against that's the bigger thing that to me is like, during the War in States period, why wasn't he able to knock out more of the other people? You know what I'm saying? Like, if he alone was that strong, and then him and the Senju came together, even if the other nations, they probably should have just been them 2 of the hidden Leaf Village, and then everybody else should have made one of the villages. There should have only 2 villages. Because if he is that strong to take on all 5 of them together, that is ridiculous.
War is that of Neji, a character who basically hadn't existed for 450 episodes. Now, yes, obviously, we had the Edo Tensei reincarnations of a bunch of key characters from all throughout Naruto's history, and thus losing them all again felt like death in itself, but it wasn't. And therefore, today, I want to go over 8 ninja that I believe shouldn't have seen the conclusion of the fourth Great Shinobi World War.
Down below, let me know if you guys agree with all 8.
We're talking all the ninja that should have died in the fourth Great Shinobi World War. Ranked and explained. Before we get to ranking or explaining quite possibly our most morbid list yet, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. So how are we ranking these people that should have died in the fourth Great Shinobi World War? Well, before we dive into this list, let's lay down a couple of ground rules. Now, I'm going to be taking a couple of things into account here in the making of this list. First thing I'm going to be taking into account is whether or not the person that we're talking about was put in a situation where they could have died. I'm talking about being on the brink of death, but then something or somebody flies in to save them from said death. Now, while there can be people on this list that were never put in that situation, but probably should have died in the fourth Great Shinobi World War because either they were useless to the story, their death would have been impactful, or they didn't really have a role to play further on in the continuation of Naruto's history, like in Boruto. One of the big things we will be accounting for is whether or not somebody was put in a situation to die. The other thing that we're going to be taking into account in the making of this list is everything else I just said. Whether or not the people we're talking about were important to the story, would have an impactful death, or had a role to play in future tellings of
don't have no
Naruto's
kind of
story.
role
See,
in Boruto,
because while a lot of people are put on the brink of death during the fourth Great Shinobi World War, but are brought back from it, a fair amount of those people don't do anything
Really all the
that
5
new
Kage,
life they're
except for
given.
Gaara.
Now, yes, they all go on to live their lives, and that's fine, but plot-wise, them
Gaara's the only one
surviving
that's,
doesn't
like-
progress anything.
Yeah,
And therefore,
Gaara's
in
the only one that
actuality, their
survival
death
is
probably would have been a
important in
better
Boruto.
ending and made their character arc more rounded instead of keeping them alive to accomplish, well, a grand total of
honestly,
nothing.
Killer
But
Bee,
with the
'cause
rules
he
out of
ain't
the
even
way
in
here,
there.
let's get into our list. Starting off at number 8 on the list of people that I
Okay,
believe
I
should
can
have
agree with
died in the
this.
4th Great Shinobi World War, we have the 4th Raikage, A obviously plays a pivotal role in the 4th Great Shinobi World War as he is one of the leaders of the Shinobi Alliance. In fact, he was literally elected by his other Kage to be the supreme leader of the Shinobi Allied forces, meaning he
Right.
was responsible for overall command of all of the Allied forces of the 5 hidden villages. When it comes down to it, he didn't really do all that much. So yes, he was elected the supreme leader, and yes, he worked with Shukaku Nara, Shikamaru's father, to implement the strategies that Shukaku Nara thought up. And therefore, when it came down to the deployment of certain troops in certain areas, it was kind of up to him to make sure those deployments happened. But really, it was Shikaku who was thinking up all the plans. Inonochi, Ino's father, who was using the Yamanaka's ability to telepathically communicate to pass those plans to all of the key players within the confines of the Shinobi Alliance. So, like, yeah, the 4th Raikage was in charge, and technically he was positioning different divisions, but his death at the hands of Madara wouldn't have stunted the progression of the war effort for the Shinobi Alliance side really at all. See, pretty much anything that A accomplished, he accomplished before his battle against Madara. Which, mind you, happens in like chapter 560. There was 700 chapters in Naruto. That's because all 5 of the Kage, after the battle against Madara, are knocked out for a pretty long amount of time. Basically, Karin has to stumble upon Tsunade and heal Tsunade, refilling her strength of 100 seal. And then Tsunade uses that chakra and that strength to bring all of the other 4 Kage back from the brink of death. But like after this battle against Madara and all being brought back from what should have been their death, all 5 of the Kage, who should probably be still one of the stronger fighting forces on the battlefield, don't really do anything. Pretty much the only thing that A is able to do after being revived is in the latest stages of the 4th Great Shinobi World War, where he's able to, using his lightning cloak, battle against Tobi, which is just white Zetsu, who's mounting an attack against the Shinobi Alliance using a miniature version of Sage Art would release true several thousand hands. And that's impressive, but when it really comes down to it, is Karin who
we probably
wins
could've
that
got
fight,
that. Yeah, we
using her
could've gotten that
adamantite
there.
chains to dismantle the miniature version of Hashirama's strongest jutsu. After that, A just gets hit with infinite Tsukiyomi, then the war ends. And like obviously, yes, I know, Hagoromo summons all of the Kage to some kind of spiritual plane so they can pull their chakra to summon Kakashi, Sasuke, Sakura, and Naruto back from one of Kaguya's dimensions. But one, they probably all could have been reverse summoned rather easily. Sasuke being able to summon Garuda, his summoning hawk to Kaguya's lava dimension, kind of proves that. And 2, there was plenty of Kage level people on the battlefield that could have replaced somebody like A. Not to mention, like a lot of the Kage who fight in the 4th Great Shinobi World War, after the conclusion of the 4th Great Shinobi World War, A is replaced as Raikage by Darui, and therefore in Boruto he doesn't really have that much of a role to play, other than that of possibly an advisor, which he does do sometimes. However, the reason that A is at the bottom of this list is that while he does, yes, pass on the role of Raikage to Darui, like all of the other Kage involved in the 4th Great Shinobi World War, he does play, while still the Raikage, a pretty important role in a Naruto sequel IP, just not Boruto. Because in Naruto The Last, which takes place just a couple of years after the conclusion of the
moon
4th
was
Great
about to
Shinobi
blow
World
up and
War, we learn that
everything.
A, with the assistance of Killer Bee and the rest of the Hidden Cloud Village, has actually been working on something known as a chakra cannon. A weapon so incredibly powerful that if it was charged with A and B's chakra, it would be able to do something like destroy the moon. And this is not only a crazy development that establishes that the Hidden Cloud Village is very easily the second most powerful village in Naruto, but also one of the central talking points of Naruto The Last. Because while the moon is being thrown at the earth by Toneri, A is pressuring Kakashi to essentially allow him to use his chakra cannon to blow up said moon. And thus in continuations that go beyond the 4th Great Shinobi World War, A still kind of had a role to play. And thus he gets our number 8 spot. However, unfortunately, that can't be said for all of the Kage that served alongside A in the battle against Madara, because at number 7 on our list of people who should have died during the 4th Great Shinobi World War, we have Mei. Now, Mei was not the supreme leader of the Shinobi Alliance, but she was the Mizukage, making her one of the most important people in the Shinobi Alliance. However, unfortunately, a lot like A, the majority of her usefulness in terms of aiding the Shinobi Alliance came either before her battle against Madara or during her battle against Madara, where objectively she was probably the least useful Kage. Now, Mei is crazy powerful. She's able to use 2 separate Kikki-Genkai, one of the only people in the Naruto universe to ever be able to do that. And with her Boya release and her Lava release, she is a crazy formidable opponent. However, while 3 out of the 5 Kage in their battle against Monoro were able to at least destroy one of his shadow clones, 2 out of the 5 Kage were not able to. And those 2 people would be Gaara and Mei. And Gaara in the battle against Madara at least tried to seal him twice. And thus when Mei was defeated by Madara, it wouldn't have been the craziest idea of all time to keep her dead, especially when you consider the fact that, like with A, the only thing that she did after being brought back from the brink of death by Tsunade was fight alongside Inoki A against Toby. However, in this battle, on account of the fact that she barely had any chakra, she wasn't even really able to contribute all that much, even though she was involved in the battle itself. Not to mention that this version of Toby is never technically defeated. Like, yes, Karin using her adamantite chains is able to destroy the 1,000-hand Bodhidharma, but like this version of Toby just holds off the Shinobi allied forces for a certain amount of time, then eventually is like, oh, okay, I guess I did my job, and then spits out Yamato. This entire battle is probably the most forgettable in the 4th Great Shinobi World War. But then Nick, if Mai basically had no role to play in the 4th Great Shinobi World War, period, why is she so low on this list? Well, because kind of like A, she had a role to play after the conclusion of the 4th Great Shinobi World War. See, while we don't know a ton about Mai, we do know after the conclusion of the 4th Great Shinobi World War, she committed herself as the 5th Mizukage to modernizing the Hidden Mist. See, obviously, by the time that the 4th Great Shinobi World War had come around, the Blood Mist Village was already gone. After the establishment of the Shinobi Union, which is what the Shinobi Alliance became, Mai, over the course of the next decade or so, modernized the Hidden Mist Village to not only be friendly to strangers and tourists coming to check it out, but also to be a peaceful and prosperous place for people to live, ushering in an entirely new era for the Hidden Mist Village to thrive, essentially, as a buzzing modern metropolis that's a hot tourist destination. And without Mai's direction, that probably never would have happened for the Hidden Mist Village. Well, yes, Chojuro obviously shares the same ideals, and also probably would have taken over as Mizukage if Mai had died in the 4th Great Shinobi World War. There's no way to know as to whether or not he would have been as effective in his remodeling of the Hidden Mist Village as Mai was. And for that, she gets her number 7 spot. But since we're talking about people from other villages, coming up at number 6 on the list of people I believe should have died in the 4th Great Shinobi World War, we have Killer B. Listen, this is a man who played a massive role in the 4th Great Shinobi World War. Also, one of my favorite characters in Naruto. It's not that I want him dead, it's just that he probably should have died. See, Killer B, like everybody else on this list up until this point, was put into a situation where we, the viewer, believed that, oh yeah, he's probably dead. See, because time and time again, we were told, as a Jinchuriki, if you ever have your tailed beast pulled out of you, you die. And this is put on the highest level of display when Naruto has his half of Kurama ripped out of him, and his heart literally stops to the point where Sakura has to slice open the side of his chest and manually pump it. However, in this very same moment when Naruto has his half of Kurama pulled out of him, Killer B has the entirety of Gyuki ripped out of him, a moment that probably should have killed him. However, because Killer B is able to use a Tails substitution jutsu, the same one that allowed for him to survive his encounter with Heavy Sasuke and the firing of Amaterasu, Killer B is essentially able to keep a part of one of Gyuki's tentacles with him. So he holds on to like less than 1/8 of Gyuki's powers. And because he's able to keep this less than 1/8 of Gyuki's powers inside of his body, he's able to skate around to the fact that he's supposed to die because Gyuki was ripped out of it. And we even see when all of the tailed beasts are released from the Gettamazo, that what's released from Gyuki is by far and away the majority of his body. So Killer B held on to maybe 2-3% of Gyuki's power, and that was enough to keep him alive. However, Killer B does even less for the remainder of the story than either A or Mai. Because after Gyuki is ripped out of Killer B and he uses his tentacle substitution jutsu, it's not until Infinite Tsukiyomi is fired off that Killer B decides, okay, maybe I'll pop out of this tentacle I'm hiding in, just in time to get smacked by Infinite Tsukiyomi. And then Killer B is basically never heard from again, to the point where
That is true, bro. That's the worst time to pop out. It'd be like, all right, time to come out. Everything should be over by now. Dang, getting jutsu. Dang, I'm trapped. I should have stayed inside.
The most asked questions that I got for years was, is Killer B still alive in Boruto? Because everybody forgot, because it was a scene that was put in amongst a flurry of Infinite Tsukiyomi filler dreams, that it was revealed that Killer B had not only popped out of his tentacle, but also got caught up in Infinite Tsukiyomi. And yes, Gyuki later gets sealed once again back inside of Killer B, but really the only thing that Killer B ever does again for the remainder of Naruto and Boruto's history is get abducted by Momoshiki, have Gyuki once again extracted from him by Momoshiki, and then once again be very sneakily revealed to still be alive in Boruto, just to once again be forgotten by the plot. So what did keeping Killer Bee alive accomplish? Well, it gave Momoshiki a Jinchuriki to kidnap to establish what Momoshiki was after, which was the reconstituting of the Ten Tails. However, if Killer Bee was dead, Momoshiki could have just gone after Gyuki, and the same thing would have been accomplished. So a Killer Bee does technically still have a role to play after the Fourth Great Shinobi World War came to its conclusion. It's certainly not a big enough role for him to dodge death once again, especially when you consider the fact that if Killer Bee had died in that moment, not only would it have had a profound effect on Naruto, as Killer Bee was his teacher, but also it would have put more pressure on Naruto to be great, as he would be the only Jinchuriki left standing. But we're on a roll here of killing ninjas not from Konoha, so let's keep up the good work, because coming up at number 5 are the list of people that I believe should have died during the Fourth Great Shinobi.
Look, I told you, the Kage really should have all died in that moment. I mean, the only one that played a significant role is Gaara. I would say kinda Tsunade. Did she, like, when she got back alive, how she healed everybody else? I don't know if she went back. I don't remember her going back to the battlefield though and doing anything else. I think Sakura handled most of the healing. So honestly, Gaara might be the only Kage that you see not on this list.
World War, we have Inoki. Listen, Inoki was an absolute powerhouse in the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, to the point where Madara, while battling against the Five Kage, acknowledged that Inoki was truly the only threat to him. And this is proven time and time again, as Inoki is the only amongst the Kage who was actually able to injure the Edo Tensei reincarnation of Madara. And Inoki does it twice. 2 injuries that, mind you, would have been fatal should Madara have actually been mortal. On top of this, Inoki is able to level a deep forest emergence that should have killed all of the Kage, and eviscerate close to 20 of Madara's Susanoo-clad in wood clones. Ties into the fact that before Inoki was able to battle against Madara, he was almost solely responsible for making sure a meteorite didn't wipe out half the Shinobi Alliance, and he was able to battle against his predecessor, Mu, the second Tsuchikage, alongside Naruto, forcing Mu to split his body and lose half of his power, making him incapable of using dust release. When it comes down to it, if you're talking about the MVPs of the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, Inoki has to be on your list. However, coming into the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, Inoki was already in his late 70s, early 80s. And he was the only person outside of Hiruzen, who was already technically dead, who had fought in every single one of the Great Shinobi World Wars. Not to mention the fact that he already had a clear successor chosen to be the next Tsuchikage in Koretsuchi, as not only was she incredibly powerful, being able to use Tokeki Genkai, but she was also his granddaughter. I really don't think there was any reason to bring Inoki back to life after he's cut down by Madara. Inoki displays a ridiculous feat of strength. He teaches us what the will of stone is all about, as he saves all of the other Kage from a dust spore-related death from deep forest emergence. And if he had been able to fight against Madara in his prime, he probably would have stood a pretty good chance against him. But his era is far bygone, and even after he's brought back to life, like all of the other Kage we've talked about, while he is involved in the battle against Tobi, that's basically all that he does. And while yes, he does play a fairly big role in an anime-only arc in Boruto, where he essentially makes sentient mud robots that kidnap Mitsuki, and then he makes a clone of himself that's the best dust release user we've ever seen. That's an anime-only Boruto arc, and therefore I don't count it, though he does technically die in that arc, and as the anime is canon, that is actually Inoki's real death. But still, I think it would have been a lot better for Inoki's character to die alongside all of the other Kage in this battle against Madara, as a testament to the ties that have now been made between these ninjas. See, because Inoki, who fought for or led the Stone Village through every single one of the 4 Great Shinobi World Wars, had every single reason to hate all of the other villages and all of their other Kage. And in fact, during all of these wars, Inoki was known for his underhanded tactics. So for Inoki to die an honest death fighting against Madara for the betterment of all ninja kind, alongside all of the other Kage that he had waged war against his entire life, could have been a really cool full circle moment to redeem all of the underhanded tactics he had tried to use in previous wars. And I think it would have been really cool if all of the Kage worked together to make sure that one of them did not die. See, because I'm going to give you a little spoiler here, if you're catching on to this trend that I think all of the Kage should have died after the battle against Madara, there's one name you're not going to hear on this list, and that name is Gaara. See, I think narratively it would have been really cool if all of...
I knew it. He's the only one that makes it, because he actually played a very important role in Boruto, fighting Momoshiki, holding off at least Momoshiki, sealing Momoshiki. The only thing that I said that he should have had happen was putting Shukaku back into him. That was be the only thing that I think that needed to have happened between Gaara almost dying here and being alive, was putting Shukaku back into him. But yeah,
of these old guard Kage,
Now,
your
I guess
Meis,
Tsunade's
your
next?
A's, your Inokis, and your Tsunades, yes, Tsunade is on the list, all worked together when they realized that they weren't going to be able to win against Madara to ensure that Gaara, the face of the next generation, could survive this deadly battle. See, because not only had Gaara delivered the speech that gelled the entire Shinobi Alliance together to operate as one singular force, but also it was the establishment of his relationship with Naruto that began the healing between hidden villages. So seeing all of the Kage band together to save Gaara would have been a really cool moment. It would have been a really neat depiction of the world learning to love Gaara in the way that he had always wanted. But that's enough with killing the Kages from other villages. Let's move on to our number 4 spot.
Was he even
Coming
in
up at
the
number
war?
4 on the list of people I believe should have died in the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, I have Hayashi Hyuga. Yes, I believe
I guess
Hinata's
him over
father,
Neji?
the head of the Hyuga clan, should have died in the Fourth Great Shinobi World War. And not only do I believe that the head of the Hyuga clan should have died in the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, I believe he should have died instead of Neji. I think if
I was
Hayashi
about to say,
Hyuga
yeah,
died instead of
thinking
Neji, it would have had the same emotional impact. And
No, it
you're
wouldn't.
right.
It had a
Obviously,
little bit
Hayashi
more,
Hyuga is a
honestly.
less important character than Neji, even though Neji
It would have had even more if like Neji jumped in front and then he jumped to protect Neji, reversing the roles of protection, I feel like, and kind of eliminating that kind of whole branch family, main family thing. I think that's the way it could have went. So it could have actually been more impactful not only towards the story, towards their clan, but also probably more emotionally because, Neji would have started to get teared up. And we were getting teared up because Neji getting teared up because we almost thought we lost our dude Neji, and now we lost this. And we've seen his character arc kind of take over. He's kind of getting revenge, not revenge, but atoning for letting his twin brother do the same thing for him, and he's finally giving his life to protect something that was precious to his twin brother. I think it'd be more impactful.
He wasn't that important of a character. However, the emotional payoff of Hayashi Hyuga throwing himself in front of the body of his deceased twin brother, who he sacrificed even though it was him who cut down the Hidden Cloud Shinobi who tried to abduct Hinata, would have been a perfect full circle moment to show that the caste system in the Hyuga clan was not only outdated, but also now a thing of the past, as the head of the main branch family died for a member of the side branch family, showing not only a loving side to Hayashi Hyuga, but also an acknowledgement that brandishing children with a cursed seal that main branch family members are able to use to control them is antiquated and evil. And thus Hayashi Hyuga assumes the risk of the Byakugan being stolen from his body because he has no curse mark in order to save the life of his nephew. Oh, but then Nick, Himawari, and Boruto don't have a grandfather. And you're right, they don't. But
That's
they do
not that
have
important.
an uncle who would be just as good at teaching them in the ways
Right,
of
that
Gentle
was-
Fist and who would introduce
a
a much
grandfather
more
ain't that
interesting
important.
dynamic in
They
terms
don't
of
got
relationship
Naruto's
because now
grandfather.
Naruto would be technically through marriage related to Neji, and Neji and Naruto are close to each other in age, giving Boruto, or more likely Himawari, a big brother symbol inside of Konoha. And considering the fact that all Hayashi Hyuga basically accomplishes after surviving the Fourth Great Shinobi World War is passing on the
just being
honor
a
of being the head
grandfather?
of the Hyuga clan to Hinata and then being a grandparent to Boruto and Himawari, his death wouldn't really change anything. And I think the prospect of having Neji alive is substantially more interesting than the prospect of having Hayashi Hyuga alive. But since we're talking about killing people from Konoha, next up at number 3 on the list of people that I believe should have died during the Fourth Great Shinobi World War,
Why they had to use
we
that photo,
have
though?
Tsunade. Listen, Tsunade is my favorite female character in all of Naruto. I do not wish for her death, and she does kind of have a role to play after the Fourth Great Shinobi World War. See, because while sure, technically immediately after the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, Tsunade vacates the title of Hokage and makes Kakashi the 6th Hokage, it does technically take 2 years for Kakashi to man up and take responsibility of the role. And that really only happens in 2 years because Tsunade keeps prodding him to take the role. Now, one can probably assume that Kakashi would have stepped into the role a little bit earlier if there was literally no one to fill it, but still, Tsunade does play a pretty instrumental part
I don't
in
know
pushing
anybody else that
Kakashi
would have been
to
appropriate for the
assume
role other than
of
Naruto himself.
Hokage. However,
He's
outside
too
of
young.
that, like, yes, obviously Tsunade, after being healed by Karin, is the person responsible for bringing all the other Kage back to life, and that's like a huge accomplishment. And after she brings all the other Kage back to life, she works together with Sakura to summon a large segment of Lady Katsuyo to not only fix the communication network that was broken after Inochi died, but also to ensure that in the latest stages of the battle against Madara and Obito
that is
and
kinda pretty
Nutobi, that
important,
the
though,
ninjas that are still fighting have healing that's coming from Lady Katsuyo. And well, yes, because Sakura and Tsunade are working together, they're able to summon a larger segment of Lady Katsuyo,
Right,
which
basically
undoubtedly
some-
allows for more members of the Shinobi Alliance to not die. We are talking about Sakura here, and not only was using her strength of 100 seal, but also had access to Naruto's chakra cloak. She could have summoned a pretty big segment of Lady Katsuyo herself. Now, outside of admittedly those two very impressive feats, after the conclusion of the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, and outside of Kakashi Heat and lightning in the icy sky, Tsunade doesn't really do anything. She kind of disappears from the plot. I mean, she gives us an infinite Tsukiyomi dream, where Dan is Hokage and Naoki and Jiraiya are still alive, but that infinite Tsukiyomi dream actually kind kind of proves my point. See, pretty much anybody that's ever mattered to Tsunade is dead. Dan, Naoki, and Jiraiya, all gone. And like, yes, obviously Tsunade has a lot of love for Naruto. Naruto's like too busy to hang out with Tsunade all the time. Also, everybody loves Naruto. And that's why I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, it would have been a mercy if Tsunade died during the 4th Great Shinobi World War because she would have been reunited with all the people she loves. But that could have been kind of touching to see her up in the Pure Lands with Naoki and Dan and Jiraiya. On top of that, if possibly, instead of being saved by Karin and then going to save all the other Kage, Tsunade, with the last bit of her strength, decided to heal Gaara, forfeiting her own life. This not only would have been an incredible moment of selflessness and passing it on to the next generation, but also kind of a touching callback to all of the times that Tsunade's been unsuccessful in her ability to save the people that matter to her. As with the last bit of her strength, she'd be able to save somebody who matters to the whole world. Gaara. On top of that, this could open the door for Gaara being much more useful in the final parts of Naruto, as his life was spared over all the other Kage. So while I am happy that Tsunade is alive, obviously I do think there are possible better endings for her story than her just being a retired Hokage who hangs out with the other retired Go-Kage. But we're on a pretty good roll here of killing people from Konoha, so let's keep that good train going. Because at number 2 on our list of people that I believe should have died during the 4th...
Bro, why is it so far every person that I done said? Killer Bee, all the Kage, or except for Gaara, Kabuto. The only person I didn't say was Hayashi. I didn't think about that. But I do agree with it. So far, we've been right on the money. Now, I think that's the end of my list, though. So whoever is number 1 is somebody I didn't say. But 6 of 8, I'll take that.
Great Shinobi World War, we have Kabuto. Listen, was Kabuto ever placed in a situation where he should have died? No, because Kabuto is the person in charge of controlling Edo Tensei, couldn't be killed because if he was, all of his Edo Tensei reincarnations
after he gave it back,
and thus Itachi had to place him in Izanami, an infinitely recurring loop that goes on until you acknowledge who you truly are and stop trying to change your destiny. And after going through that loop for, I don't know, an hour, Kabuto realizes that he's just a boy from Konoha's orphanage, and therefore his true calling in life is to take care of the Konoha orphanage. And therefore, after enacting the 4th Great Shinobi World War, bringing Madara back to life, and killing north of 25,000 shinobi from the 5 collective villages that were battling against the Madara that Kabuto brought back to life, Kabuto repents by saving Sasuke's life, which admittedly does allow for Kaguya to be defeated, and then going to work at the orphanage, the thing that he wanted to do. Now, this is a form of repentance. I guess he is doing a good deed. However, does doing the thing that he realized in his deepest, darkest moment that he wanted to do actually count as repentance? Like, yes, it's a good thing, but will that good thing ever counteract the amount of bad he did? And thus, as to whether or not Kabuto should have died during the 4th Great Shinobi World War, maybe saving somebody like Naruto, is kind of up to whether or not you believe in corporal punishment or not. Like, is Kabuto living the rest of his life doing a good thing enough to make up for him doing literally the worst thing that anybody's ever done in the Naruto universe without the last name of Otsutsuki? I don't know. But would him dying make up for it? Also, I don't know. Like, hypothetically, what is one life comparatively to 25,000 lives? And also, potentially, all of the lives
why I say you probably put him a little bit lower on the
because
list,
him bringing Madara back to life allowed for Infinite Tsukiyomi to be fired and Kaguya to be reincarnated. That's not the kind of karmic event that you can balance by working in an orphanage for, I don't know, 60 years. But it also may not be the kind of karmic event that you can balance simply by saving somebody's life. And therefore, while it's nice to say, what if he brought Sasuke back to life and then gave his life to protect Naruto, as opposed to somebody like Obito doing it, even though Obito definitely should have died in the 4th Great Shinobi World War, well then, yeah, maybe Kabuto would have a stronger argument for being redeemed, as not only did he save Sasuke, but he also saved Naruto. But that just feels redundant, like bad story writing. Like, yeah, Kabuto's able to save both of them when they're massively far apart from each other. Like, he gives Sasuke a new heart, and then he gives Naruto a new heart. So should Kabuto have died during the 4th Great Shinobi World War? Like, I'm gonna say maybe. Like, he probably deserved it, but also there's something noble about him committing the rest of his life to making sure that orphans in Konoha get a good one. But some of you are probably saying, well, Nick, this seems like a lot of indecision for somebody who's number 2 on the list. And it's like, listen, if anybody deserved to die in the 4th Great Shinobi World War, it is Kabuto. He's pretty much the only person responsible for the creation of the 4th Great Shinobi World War who doesn't die. Madara dies, Obito dies, Kaguya dies, hell, even Black Zetsu dies, but Kabuto rides out unscathed. So if you believe that Kabuto dying to save somebody like Naruto would redeem the creation of the 4th Great Shinobi World War, then yes, he deserves the number 2 spot. But if you don't believe in the death penalty, then maybe he's better off serving at the orphanage. But don't worry, there's no indecision in my number 1 spot, because at number 1 on the list of people that I believe should have died during the 4th Great Shinobi World War,
y'all can run it back to the beginning. Guy was like one of the first people I said, so I did say it. So 7 for 8. That's probably the most linked up minded we done been. You know what I'm saying? 7 for 8. I agree with the 8th person, so really at 8 for 8. Now I would say maybe move Kabuto down a little bit because of the indecision. That's the only change I would make. So only one change out of 9 possibilities here.
have Might Guy. Listen, did Might Guy deserve to die? No. Might Guy is by far and away one of the best people in the Naruto universe. He put his faith in Rock Lee when Rock Lee wasn't able to use ninjutsu or genjutsu, and trained him to become one of the strongest shinobi in the entirety of the Naruto universe. Not to mention the fact that he was also solely responsible for the defeat of Kisame, and time again protected the weak and vulnerable in the moments where they needed him. Might Guy is a good guy, so saying he deserved to die is kind of a misnomer. Technically, none of the people on this list outside of Kabuto deserve to die. However, Naruto's story is substantially better if Might Guy does die. While yes, Naruto displaying the fact that he's now Ninja Jesus with his Yang seal is a cool way to show his upgrade in power given to him by Hagoromo. However, considering the fact that after using 6 past Shibaku Tensei on Kaguya, he loses the Yang seal, the display of, oh hey, Naruto is Ninja Jesus now is kind of useless. It's not a power that sticks with Naruto, so it's not a power that really needs to be displayed, and it's not like there was nobody else in the world who would have been able to give Kakashi a new eye after he lost his combo eye. The Uchiha very much demonstrate the fact that swapping out eyes is basically the easiest thing you can do from a medical ninjutsu standpoint. More so, I'd imagine, if the eye you're swapping in is not a Sharingan. But why should Might Guy have died, outside of the fact that he used 8th Gate and should have died? Well, 1, because death baiting is annoying, and 2, because the 8th Gate had been talked about time and time again as not only the ultimate upgrade in power, but also a deadly handshake with the devil. But Might Guy should have died because he should have killed Madara. See, unfortunately, when it boils down to it, Might Guy, well, it is an incredibly sick moment, using 8th Gate essentially accomplishes nothing. Madara goes, wow, you're the greatest taijutsu user I've ever fought, gets a hole kicked in him, and then heals from said hole. And then immediately after Might Guy inflicts what should have been fatal damage to Madara, both Naruto and Sasuke go on to inflict even worse damage to him without making some kind of handshake deal with the devil for their soul, as both Naruto and Sasuke proceed to cut Madara in half. Now, not only does this immediately disqualify everything that Might Guy just accomplished, an entire lifetime of a ridiculous amount of training that probably would have killed either Naruto or Sasuke, and then literally trading in his life for power to hopefully win in a battle against the final baddie of Naruto. And when you consider the fact that Naruto is a story that is fundamentally about hard work overcoming skill, the only man who stood as a testament to that fact to the very end, Might Guy, and I guess to a lesser extent Rock Lee and Sakura, should have been the person to kill Madara, with a technique that had been whispered about for hundreds of chapters. However, that technique should have cost him his life in what was essentially a trade between him and Madara, the greatest genius of all time and the greatest hard worker of all time. Oh, Nick, but then who are Naruto and Sasuke gonna fight? Kaguya just takes over Madara's dead body. It's incredibly simple. Or like Madara's dying body. This way Black Setsu doesn't have to backdoor him. Might Guy gets his shine, hard work rises to the top, and the geniuses have to fight against Naily. It's true to the core messaging of Naruto, gives Might Guy an incredible send-off to his story. Madara dies a respectable and honorable death, and the reveal of Kaguya doesn't feel as shoehorned in. It's so incredibly simple, I don't know how Kishimoto didn't think of it. But yeah, with that brings us to the conclusion, the list of people I believe should have died in the 4th Great Shinobi World War. But I'm curious to hear from you.
And yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that explanation. That would have been a much easier ending. Like, I thought it was cheap that he got back up and was healing. I was like, bro, are you serious? Like, is this ever going to end? Like, I get y'all want Naruto and Sasuke to be the ones to kill him, but really? And then they bring in Kaguya. I'm like, okay, if you're going to bring her in anyway by getting backdoored with a punch to the heart, have him be dead there, laying on the ground, like, dead. And then Black Zetsu like slithers over and like encapsulates his whole body and then turns into Kaguya. Something along those lines, bro. Like, or his body starts to impulse as Naruto gets there to look over on Guy and be like, dang, I was too late to save you. Then you look over and see him starting to, Kakashi goes like, hey, what's that? His body starts to impale like it did in the anime when he got impaled and turns into Kaguya, and Sasuke pulls up. So I think that's really, really fair. But like I said, for the most part, we actually agreed on just about every topic here. We agreed on every topic here. There's just one name that I didn't call out and didn't think about with Hayashi. But you guys can let me know down below. What did you guys think about this list of 8? Do you guys agree with it wholeheartedly like I do? Or is there other people that you think would have been a better fit in the top 8? Let me know down below in my comment section, and then I'll see you guys there. Chop it up with you guys down there. Leave a like, subscribe, and turn that bell on so you guys know when new videos are going live. Also, comment down below what other anime videos or anime ideas you guys want my opinions and thoughts on. I have watched a lot more animes now, so I'm pretty knowledgeable in a lot of different animes. And I'm always ears to the street looking for videos like this or new readings, new writings, and stuff like that. So I know a lot more than just watching it from anime without reading the mangas. It's almost like a little bit of both knowledge. So if you guys want me to talk about any topics, let me know down below and I'll get into it. So catch you guys in the next video. It's me, boy, Sean. This movie, get back, okay, get back to our King Leo. And I'll catch you guys in the next video, man. I'm going for the day. Peace.